Hello Magic Nerds. I'm going to do a really quick video on how to play Raphael Levy's French Rites deck. I'm going to try to do this as fast as I can and hopefully you'll be able to follow this. I'm going to start with the main cards that the deck is composed of. Let's start with the Mana Dorks. Okay, there you have Avacyn's Pilgrim, Birds of Paradise, and Llanowar Elves. Basically, these cards are just to get really fast mana out. You can get a turn 3 fatty out with no problem at all with this kind of ramp. The downside to playing Mana Dorks like this is that they're susceptible, of course, to Slagstorm, to any kind of burn. And so that is, like I said, that's the downside to this, but if you can get them to stay out there, it's really great. Okay, after that we have our filtering cards. Let's start with this one, Faithless Looting. Faithless Looting is 1 red, draw 2 cards, and discard 2 cards. This is really great if you have 2 cards in your hand that you want to get in the graveyard right away, and by drawing 2 cards you could just discard them. Or it's also great if you have absolutely nothing in your hand of any value. You can possibly draw 2 cards that you then want to discard in the graveyard, or possibly draw something that you want to keep in your hand to cast. Really great card. 1 red, and it's got a flashback cost of 1 red and 2 colorless. So this is one of the key cards of this deck. Another big card in this deck is Mulch. Okay, Mulch, you reveal the top 4 cards of your library. What you do is you put all land cards revealed this way into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. This is a really good card early in the game when you're low on land. This is a great way to stock up your hand on land so that you could, basically get your spells out quicker. Really helps against getting mana screwed. Again, you're looking at the top 4 cards. Now, another good part of this card is, if, say, out of the top 4 cards that you revealed, there's a creature card that you want to dump in the graveyard, well, it goes. Okay, anything other than land goes. Creature cards on Burial Rites, which we'll get to soon. So this is a great card for getting stuff into your graveyard and getting land into your hand early in the game. It's only 1 green, 1 colorless. Okay, another key card, Tracker's Instincts. Okay, reveal the top 4 cards of your library. Put a creature card from among them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. Okay, this is very good later in the game when you've got enough mana to cast a creature so you can actually get something into your hand to cast. Or if you draw more than 1 creature, say you have a big creature and a small one, you keep the small one in your hand and drop the big one in your graveyard so that you could pull it out with Burial Rites. Okay, another key card this deck. Next, Burial Rites. This is probably the most important card in the deck because without this card the deck just doesn't work. It's 1 black, 4 colorless, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, but it has a flashback cost of 1 white and 3 colorless. So if you manage to dump this in the graveyard with either Mulch or Tracker's Instincts, you can cast an Burial Rites, well, at latest turn 4, and with the Mana Dorks as early as turn 3, which is how I said you can basically get a very big creature out by turn 3. And then finally, we have what I call the big fatties. These are the 3 main creature cards in the deck. Elvish Norn. There are 3 of these in the deck. Some decks run 4. I run 3. All your creatures get +2/+2. Other creatures get -2/-2. Once this hits the table, if you're playing against a weenie deck, that's it. It's pretty much game over. Second one, Inferno Titan. This is very good against very small decks, against Delver. His 3 damage, you could do 1 or 2 to Delver if Delver's flipped. Really great for getting rid of stuff. And then finally, Wormcoil Engine, which is great against red deck wins because they just cannot ever get out of that hump get over that hump of doing damage to you because you're constantly gaining life off of this. Plus, if it dies, you get two worm tokens. These are the 3 main cards. I have 3 Hellish Norn, I think 2 or 3 Inferno Titan, and 3 Worm Coil Engine. That's it. That is essentially the deck. The idea of the deck is to ramp fast, get cards in your graveyard, get Burial Rites in your graveyard, or if you can't, at least get it into your hand, get big creatures in the graveyard, and pull them out with Burial Rites. That's it. It's not rocket science, but there's a lot of decisions that have to be made. This is probably one of the most complicated decks that I've played since playing Magic, and I've played some toughies, but this one, yeah, I had a headache by the end of the night. Anyway, that's basically the deck. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I am going to do basically a sample hand to show you how the deck runs, and then we can wrap this up. So let me take a quick pause and we'll get right back to it. Okay, I am at MTG Deck Builder right now, and I've got the deck loaded up, and we're just going to do a quick little hand. I'm going to click on New Game. Alright, now the land base for this deck is really, really screwy. There's a lot of dual lands. Most of them are the Scars lands that come into play untapped as long as you have 2 or fewer lands, which is good. Okay, this is not a bad opening hand. I've got 2 land. One of them is a Razorverge Thicket, which is green and white. So I'm going to play that, tap it for green, and I can play an elf. So I've got 1 dork out. Okay, I'm going to click on next turn. I'm going to play my Dark Slick Shores, which can also come in untapped because I only have 1 land. That's black and blue. So now I've got black, blue, green, and white. I've got 4 of my 5 colors already. Okay, I am going to tap that for a Pilgrim for green, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to tap my Elves for green, that for black or blue, doesn't matter, and cast Mulch. This is going to get me more land into my hand. I'm going to look at the top 4 cards in my library. 1, 2, 3, 4. Look at that. I got 2 land, and these 2 cards go in the graveyard. Mulch, Tracker's Instincts. So there, I filtered out 2 more land out of my deck. Next turn, okay, I'll cast the Blackleaf Cliffs. Alright, now, look at that. I've got 5 mana ready. I've got an Inferno Titan in my hand. Now, if this didn't come into play tab next turn, I could actually cast an Inferno Titan on turn, on turn 4. But unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to unless I get a land that doesn't come into play tap. But as you can see, this deck works very, very fast. Let's see, what can I do this turn? Well, I can do Faithless Looting. So I'm going to tap this for red, throw that in the yard. I'm going to draw 2 cards. Okay, now look what I could do now. Well, I could go one of 2 ways. I could actually next turn put out the green. Actually, I don't have 2 reds, so that wouldn't work. So you know what I'm going to do instead? I'm going to toss the Inferno Titan and the Unburial Rites in the graveyard, because I have to discard 2 cards after the 2 that I drew. Next turn, I'll play the Forest. I've got white. 1, 2, 3, 4. I flash back Unburial Rites, and there you go. Inferno Titan, turn 4. That's it. That is basically the way this deck plays. You are filtering through your deck. I almost decked myself last night when I played this. That's how quickly you go through cards. You filter through your deck, you dump stuff in the graveyard, you get mana dorks out to ramp, you pull an Unburial Rites early, it's basically almost game over. Really, really great deck. It does take a lot of thought, especially later game, but it's a very, very fun deck to play. And that's really all there is to it. Just practice with it a lot. See what kind of hands you get. Taking a mulligan is very important. You've got to get a decent opening hand. Absolutely must. The land base makes it tough to play. because a lot of your lands come into play tapped. There are only 8 basic land in this deck. There's 6 forest, 1 mountain, and 1 plain, and that's it. Everything else is a dual land. So it takes some skill, it takes some thought, and it's not an easy deck to play, but let me tell you, when it works, it is just the sweetest thing. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. You can watch it again, look at all the cards that make up the deck, watch how I played this out, and just by watching this, you should get a very, very good idea of how to play this deck. Right? Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you at Friday Night Magic.